Interested in using stencils on your next quilting project? Stick around and we'll give you some great tips. Welcome to Handi Quilter Watch and Learn. I'm Kim Sandberg and
I'm Kristina Whitney.
And we are super excited today to talk about stencils. So Kristina, you decided to use stencils on this project. Tell us about it.
Okay, so let's look over at this quilt real quick. I've got this big, huge block here.
Okay.
And I wanted to put some kind of a motif in there, but I wanted to do something for my grandma.
Okay.
So kind of strange. So I found some of her old templates that
oh, wow.
Look, out of a cardboard box.
I love that though.
So those were some of her things. I thought, oh, that'd be kind of a fun shape, make something like that. It didn't quite fit what I wanted, so
okay.
I opted not to go with that. But then I found this other package here.
Okay.
Isn't that fun?
I love this. I know I got a bunch of these from my grandma too, and they're so fun.
Yeah, we were just talking about we wish there was a date on it so we knew how old it is, but it's old. But within that package, I opened it up and I found this design here.
Oh, there you go.
It's for a double wedding ring, but it would fit in a square, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's put that on the square there and we'll see if it fills the space.
It is super small. I mean, if I tried to kind of without creasing, it's going to fill up like that much of the space.
Yeah, and I wanted it a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this great tool. What I first did though was I took a copy of that and then there were some lines on here that I didn't want to stitch, so I just whited out those lines.
Gotcha.
So I wouldn't confuse myself later.
Smart.
But then I took this picture and I took our Quilter's Assistant Proportional Scale. And this is so cool because I can do, the inside circle here is the original size. So I just measured this and then decided how big I actually wanted it to be in this block. And I lined up the original is on the inside, what I want is on the outside, line them up, and then it tells me the number that I need to enlarge it by.
That's awesome. So you don't have to do any math.
No math.
Perfect. Yeah. That's perfect.
So I took that to a copier, put the enlarge to whatever size it was.
160%.
And this is what I came up with.
Oh, look at that.
So I had to print on 2 pages. I just taped them together.
Though.
So it fills the space a little bit better.
And you purposely chose, like, this does not completely fill the space because you want to do background fills around
Correct.
it, I'm guessing,
Yep.
knowing you.
Exactly.
That's great. That was super easy.
It was, but it gets even easier.
Okay.
So how do I get this to my quilt? That's the problem.
Yes.
So we've got golden threads paper here.
Okay.
So that's the golden threads paper. It comes in 3 different sizes.
Right.
But I just traced it onto the golden threads paper.
Okay. And you can see how easy that is to do.
Yeah.
'Cause you don't even have to put it up on a window or a light box or anything.
Exactly.
It's easy to see. Okay.
And when I did that tracing, I actually did multiple layers. So let me turn this sideways. And you can see I did like 4 layers, I believe, or 5 or 6. I don't know how many layers I did.
Just accordion folded the paper, right?
Correct.
Cool.
So I only traced the one time, but then I took it to my domestic machine.
Ooh.
And punched, I sewed it, but with no thread.
Right.
So made those perforations.
Nice.
So I just created my own stencil.
I love that. And you created multiple versions of it.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yep.
I love that.
So, I mean, if you're going to pounce it, you could use the same one over and over again, or if you wanted to have multiples in case one of them, you know, gets ripped or something.
Yeah.
But that's a great way that you can do multiple stencils at once.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
So, let's talk about stencils for a second and different
do.
types of stencils. Okay, so that was creating my own stencil.
Right.
You can also purchase stencils. Here's the most common that you'll see. Just like a plastic, and we can even put some black fabric behind it so we can see a little bit better.
We can really see. Yeah. And I do love these ones because they have the little sticker here that quite often it shows you like where to start and kind of the direction to stitch in, right?
Yeah. And it is a good idea to find stencils that are a continuous path.
I agree.
The one that I created is not going to be a continuous path, so I will be doing some backtracking and stitching over the same line. But having that continuous path is a great idea. Okay, another type of stencil that we can use. This is a full line stencil. And all of these stencils, you can just Google them. There's so many different companies, but Full Line does this special stencil, and we're going to pull this out. So this is like almost like a cloth. It's very flexible.
Yeah.
And it's got like a mesh in here. So it's not an open space, but it is really good to use with pounce pads.
Right.
Okay. So we've shown a couple different types of stencils. Let's talk about how to actually mark using those stencils on our quilt.
Because that's, you know, half of the battle for sure.
Yes. Okay. So let's keep that black fabric and that other stencil as well.
Grab the other one. Okay.
Yep. And I'm just going to pop this open here a little bit more. So when I'm using dark fabric, I will often use a pounce pad. I found it's the quickest and easiest.
Yeah.
I just take my pounce pad, pounce it on, get a little chalk there. Didn't close all the way. Then I'm going to open it up. So now I've already pounced it, so now I'm just going to swipe over the top, and that's going to allow that chalk to go into those creases in the, or openings. And then I'm going to move it away, and look, there's my design ready for me to stitch on my quilt.
Perfect. That was really easy.
Okay, so I've got a situation here where I'm not using dark fabric.
Right.
And the white pounce on the light color fabric isn't the easiest to see.
No, it's not.
So let's move that aside. So what I'll often do in a situation like this is take my water soluble or an air erase pen, and I'll actually draw in the stencil.
It's definitely easier to see on that lighter fabric.
Yep. So as long as your stencil has the openings in it that you can get the marker through, that is a great option for transferring it to your quilt top.
Okay.
Okay, other tools, I mentioned the water soluble, there's air erase, and we have also got our Handi pencil. And this works really good on the dark fabric as well. Okay, so those are tools, tips. Now let's get to the real stuff. Space here, I've got my golden threads paper that I want to put there.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to not mark this one.
Okay. So
I'm going to glue, not glue, I'm going to temporarily tape it onto my quilt top.
Okay.
And I'm going to stitch directly through that golden threads paper.
Okay, so you're going to use it as like a tearaway stencil.
Exactly.
Awesome. That's very cool.
Yep. Okay, so I've got this one already in place over here.
Okay.
I got a little bit of painter's tape, but what I used was a glue stick. So it's actually not a glue stick. I know my substances today. Glue tape.
Adhesive substances. Okay, so it's glue tape.
Yeah, and I just put it on the back around all four sides and then stuck it on there. So it'll hold it in place fairly well.
Yeah.
It might shift a little bit, but that's part of life.
Well enough.
So I've got another tip for keeping it in place that we'll get to. So will you pass all those rulers over to me?
Yes.
So this is the next part of actually quilting the stencil. I need to decide if I'm just going to free motion this or if I want to use rulers to help me control things.
Okay.
Now I will tell you, my free motion to keep it on that perfect line might not be the best, but there might be areas that I want to do that. So I grabbed a bunch of different rulers, some different arcs, and I just auditioned them. So I put that up and like, oh, that's fairly close to that. How's that one?
Close enough.
Yeah, and you can shift these a little bit. So these were just ones that I auditioned.
Okay.
I ended up going with the flipped curve ruler, which I really like because I could hold that ruler on the left with my left hand and stitch, and then when I went to go to the other side, instead of having to turn the ruler around, I can just shift the ruler whichever way. So when I actually start stitching, it'll make a little bit more sense. But I can hold it more comfortably because with this ruler, the stitch line on the top and the stitch line on the bottom are the same.
Gotcha, same curve.
Yep. And then I've also got this little slice ruler for these little parts. Now here's where it got really tricky. The center circle.
Yeah.
I went through our solid circle sets, and this was the closest one. It's a 4-inch. So to do this, I would need to put one of my Echo feet on to get it to the right size. I'm being lazy today.
Okay.
And I don't want to change my foot in the middle.
Okay.
And I just happen to have an older ruler from our ring sets.
Okay.
That's a 4.5.
Ah, that's perfect.
So that one works just perfectly for me.
Okay.
Okay, but again, if you don't have this ring set and you needed the other size, just use your Echo feet.
There you go.
Okay, and then for the straight lines, I've got my straight skinny.
Nice.
Okay, so those are the 4 rulers I'm going to use. And I'm going to pull the machine over.
So I see you have your ruler foot on there because you're going to be using your rulers.
So yep, the Surefoot, got my ruler base.
And you've got, it looks like a blending color thread, so something that just blends in with the background.
Correct. It's a little bit thicker thread. So it actually, you can see it through here. It's a little bit darker, so you can see it, but not have it stand out.
Gotcha, just slight contrast.
Yeah.
That looks great.
Okay, so let's take a look at my settings. I'm on cruise, regulated at a speed of 50. Stitches per inch, I've got about 12, and the needle stopping in the down position. Okay, now I'm going to bring my machine over here into position. Pulling up that bobbin. Now the best thing about doing stencils is that the lines are not going to go with the quilt. So I don't have to worry about being absolutely perfect. So right now, holding the ruler with my left hand to the left of the needle is very comfortable. So I'm going to start stitching around here. And I'm doing a little bit of movement with the ruler, just a tiny bit to try to stay on the line. Now as I come along this side, instead of pulling the ruler around and having to hold it awkwardly, I can hold it on the left side again.
Nice.
So that's one of my favorite things about this flip curve ruler. Okay, I can swap to this little ruler here if I want. I'm going to go ahead and finish up this section. Now I don't know if you can tell, but using these rulers is helping to hold the paper in position where I need it to stay without it shifting as much.
I noticed that. That is really nice because the paper does tend to want to wiggle just a little bit.
Okay, now I'm going to get this section here, and I'm going to have to backtrack just a little bit. Now with this ruler, I am going to have to go into the funky position, so I may or may not change my mind and swap to a different ruler later. Now another option is I can just go free motion. So for those little movements, it's pretty easy to do. Okay, let's bring in our circle. Okay, now here, I don't know if you can see that very well, but I did not stay on my line. But I need to backtrack to get back up to here, so be very careful that you try to backtrack on your stitching line, not on the marked stencil line.
It's a good thing that stencil doesn't go with the quilt when you're done, right?
Yep. And you can tell that I have done that before. And I'm going to just keep the same ruler. And again, this one I'm just going to do free motion because that's quick and easy. Now, I'm going to go ahead and come back and do this center part, and then I think I'll do the circle. Okay, I'm going to do the circle all the way around. I'll come back later and get the rest of those other parts. No, I'm just going to grab that middle while I'm here. Are you laughing at me?
No. I'm just impressed there hasn't been any sound effects yet.
There have been in my head. Okay. Okay, I think I've gone all the way around. Now let's pull in our straight, and we're going to do some of this cross hatching. Now if anybody's wondering about this red tape, that was just to remind me which rulers I was going to use. So we don't need that there. Okay, I just about made sound effects right there.
So why did you decide to backtrack there?
Just to get to the next section.
Okay.
And with crosshatch, it's just a matter of finding your path and how you want to get from place to place. So I need to get these 3 lines right here. So I'm going to just kind of use my ruler to help travel down. Or I could bring back in the circle ruler. Can you hear the machine?
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say I can hear the squeak.
Okay, so I've got all the cross hatching, I've got all the circle, so I just need to finish up these sections over here.
Okay.
So I will just play with that for a minute, and then we'll show you how to take this off.
Looks great.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Now the real fun part is taking off the paper to reveal the stitching underneath. Okay. So I do want to say that it is important that you check your tension prior to doing this, because with the paper, you might not be able to see as well if you're having any tension issues.
Okay.
So just my little tip for the day. Whee!
There's the sound effect.
So this is just kind of like doing your English paper piecing and removing the paper afterwards. If you stretch the fabric a little bit, sometimes it comes off easier. And yes, you're going to have little pieces that are going to be stuck in there that you might have to go back to and get out later. Luckily for me, the paper blends to the quilt. Just kidding. We'll get it all off of there. Okay. So we'll get that off and then reveal the finished quilted stencil.
Okay, Kristina, that looks great. That was a super fun way, an easy way to take that stencil and get it on there. I love that.
Yeah.
And you were able to make it exactly the size you needed, and then stitch it out using those rulers.
Yep, and it's something to remind me of my grandma. Used
Exactly.
a little bit of her tools. Another option if you don't want to do stencils is always Pro Stitcher.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
And you could even take a design like this, speaking of Pro Stitcher, and if you found some kind of inspiration, you could always create your own version of it in Designer.
Yep.
So there's lots of different ways to get this done. Lots and lots and lots of different ways.
Yep.
So,
Okay, so that's stencils in a nutshell.
okay, I love it. Well, thanks for joining us today. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe, and have fun quilting.